Everybody wants to be a part of the culture.
Until it's time to be diverse, equitable, and inclusive.
So we're having the uncomfortable conversations needed to spark the change.
Right here, right now.
We're your hosts, Kai DeVeaux Lawson.
And I'm Simeon Coker.
And we say all the things you wouldn't.
Welcome back to the Mixed Company Podcast.
The planning to be here. And I'm joined by some folks that I fangirl over, as you know. I continue to I'm just giving you your flowers. I am with Tara DeVeaux, the CEO of Burrell Communications. We are here picking up where we left off in 2024 to just see how things are going. So Tara, how are you? How's it going?
I'm good. And thank you so much. We haven't seen each other since Cannes. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mm-hmm. So thank you. I feel like you guys have always been, you and Simeon have always been such a fantastic supporter of me and now of Burrell. And so I am excited to be here.
I am excited to be here. Yeah. If there's one thing that I think is important for us, especially post-November, as we've talked about before, it's to support and to follow up and to amplify and to do that with our own channels. And so this is why Mixed Company, although we've now been going for 8 years, continues to be really important. It's an area where I feel like I want to hear more of our stories. I want to hear the real stories. And so I appreciate your time to talk to me today.
Yeah, and I like it because I feel like we always end up having some real talk.
Absolutely. So, absolutely. Right. So the first place I'd like to start is where we left off last year. You said something very profound to me and, had me ready to fight. I don't know if you guys know, I'm a child. I'm a product of the 99s and the 2000s. And so when I hear some things and people are ready to rock, I'm ready to roll. And you had a call to action that you wanted to change the narrative from kind of being a multicultural agency to just being an agency and going after more general market work or all work at that. And so I want to know, what has that experience been like for the last year?
Yeah.
What have the changes been? And just tell me, have you been able to shake it?
Yeah. Let me first just make sure that I am clarifying kind of our position and role in this industry. Burrell was founded at a time when the world was very different. Now we know multicultural is, or black and brown is the majority.
Yes, it is.
Is moving quickly towards the majority. We understand our spending power. We understand our influence on culture.
Right.
So when I'm saying that we're going after, and I will say quote unquote general market, because I do believe general market is a euphemism for white.
Yes, it is.
And I feel that we should be reframing what multicultural means here in America.
Yeah.
Multicultural is inclusive of white. We have created this paradigm where you're either a multicultural agency or you're a general market agency, and yet the people that we're speaking to are quite mixy. Right?
The briefs are asking for Gen Z, young black and young Latino.
Exactly. And you have, the culture has shifted, and yet this industry still has these fictional divides.
Exactly.
Right? So in my mind, black and brown people have to understand white people in order to navigate and be successful in this world. White people do not have to understand, assimilate into our culture. So why would a brand that is trying to become culturally resonant, trying to speak to Gen Z, millennials even, go to an agency that is predominantly filled with people that don't ever really have to interact with their target consumer?
Right.
You should be going to an agency that understands where culture is moving, and understands the people who are quickly becoming the majority. And so I don't want to be a general market agency. General market means white. I want to go after all business. And I feel that when we look at being a Black-owned agency, I don't think of it anybody's doing us a favor by giving us work. I think they are recognizing that Black culture drives pop culture.
Yes.
We talked about Gen Z, but Gen Z, where they talk about Gen Z slang,
or internet slang is
Ebonics.
Yes.
Okay, now we're saying the AABE, but we were slammed when we were looking for jobs 20 years ago, and we're told that, don't speak in Ebonics, don't do this, don't do that. Now, because white 20-year-olds, that's how they speak, all of a sudden it's Gen Z slang. And so we have a dramatic impact on culture, tremendous buying power, and I just don't, I reject the notion that being a multicultural agency is segregating us, or meaning that we don't have opportunities to do all of your work.
Right. And what I love the most, what I appreciate the most when I speak to you is the passionate ownership of Black culture. The passionate ownership of culture as a whole, but recognizing the order in which culture as we know it today became mainstream. And it was not mainstream 20 years ago. It wasn't mainstream 20 years ago.
54 years ago when Burrell was founded, it wasn't. And like I said, the world was very different.
The world was very, and even very different now. And with that, when I hear you say when Burrell was founded, the world was very different, I think there are some similarities to what folks might be seeing, maybe not completely today. And so your unique position as the CEO of this organization in 2025, when we are seeing rapid changes across government, rapid changes across culture, you mentioned it in your recent essay for Ad Age, where, what we expected the majority of the country to want, or the way we expected them to behave, has shifted. There are absolute implications for you as a business leader. And so I'd love to get a sense of where you sit right now. What are you seeing in terms of culture, politics in the place of Burrell and Burrell's ownership of the culture? And are there any opportunities that you see? Like, it doesn't have to be a silver lining. We don't have to rainbow and unicorn it, but is there money to be made right now with being able to own our culture?
Yes. To the last question, as the answer to the last question, I am frustrated, I think is probably the kind way of saying it.
If you want to be real.
Right, exactly. With the idea, again, that anyone is giving us anything. That the acronym DEI has been weaponized against us, and am wholeheartedly leaning into our clients that recognize that they are focused on growth. And in order to be focused on growth, they need to be more educated. They need to, on our audience, and our culture. And they look to us to provide that for them. And so I think it is critical for us to be, at Burrell, to be thought leaders in this business. And that is why when I first joined, there was a little project that was kind of off to the side that McGee Osei, one of the former CEOs, had been working on. And it was it's like, oh, we're doing a little segmentation thing. And it was just mentioned in a pre-acquisition meeting. And I just latched on to it because I did join this company because I wanted us to be properly recognized and credited for the impact that we make on culture.
Yeah.
And I thought that that was the opportunity to actually do that, and to begin to kind of shift the conversation with our clients, and again, to position ourselves as leaders in the space. And so with the launch of the Burrell Cultural Compass, which now a year later, over a year later, we have been able to launch this research that really speaks to how people identify now. And so many clients come to us. I would say every client initially comes to us with an understanding of their audience that is demo-based.
100%.
And they don't have a clear sense of identity-based marketing
at all.
And so we look at that differently, because basically race is not, although race is important and will always be important, it is not sometimes not even the key indicator for how people are going to be motivated, how they're going to behave, how they're going to buy, what they're going to consume. And so having a clear understanding of that, we were thrilled to, we'd kind of just, you do a research project, you just do the research and then you wait for the results to come back, and then you hope that there's some synergy in what your going in implications were and what you get. And so we were very excited. 5 segments. Each segment has Black folks in it. Each segment has Latinos in it. Each segment crosses generations, geographies. It really is a cultural segmentation, which is why, hence the name of the Cultural Compass. And it has guided everything that we do, from obviously consumer insights and insights that drive creative briefs, but also how we media plan. When we identify who the segments are that we actually want to talk to, it's 100,000 plus sample of folks. We qual and quant based, merged it with MRI, so that we really do understand purchase intent, purchase behavior, that kind of thing. And we are able to not just target folks from an kind of insight space, but actually target them from a media standpoint. So where the message is going to live, because I think that's also one of the many changes that have happened, is that it's not just about the message, but where the message where
the message is coming from, where you receive it.
And who you're receiving it, and who you're receiving it from, and to take it a step further, who you're receiving it from, and what are their receipts?
Their credibility.
What's their credibility?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So just to make sure that we capture it, it is the Burrell Cultural Compass, correct?
Yes.
And this cultural compass is the framework that you all have researched and created to help you drive the decision making on your creative and media side.
On creative, like strategy, business strategy, even creative and media.
What was the most surprising thing that came back to you once you guys had all of the research laid across the table?
I think the most surprising thing for us was that there wasn't a clear racial leader, right? Or demo leader at all. It was this idea that, demographics are not destiny. So it was, for us, there wasn't like, there's the Black segment. Here's the old segment. That was probably the biggest difference. We have always thought of ourselves as, we kind of think of how targeting is there's the iceberg, right? So you have what's above the surface. The part of the iceberg that you can actually see is really the smallest part of the iceberg.
Exactly.
All of the depth is under the surface. So it's always been our belief that the most resonant work is targeting what's happening under the surface.
For sure.
What we didn't realize were there were some demographic things that we took as depth, which are really just kind of
surface level.
Race being one of them.
100%.
And that all Black, we always say all Black people don't think alike. We're not a monolith. All those kinds of things, but actually having data that shows that for us was interesting. That there's a difference between who are the consumers of something and who are the promoters of something.
Yes, exactly. The activists, the advocates, absolutely.
Yes, and that I think it's also really interesting when we share it with clients, that it's like, here are the consumers of your brand, but if you're trying to grow, you need to get the promoters of your brand to really be able to scale.
And I think people, they understand it at a surface level, because I recognize that that's where a lot of the content creation and influencer work, that's what they believe that they're doing. But to your point, which, we as a team also see on our side, is because you don't understand the motivations beneath, you're only able to go so far. Right. And so what it sounds like right now is you guys have a key that I'm very excited to hear about, because it is what we're all seeing, and you guys have been able to put it into something that is tangible, that you can explain. What has the reception been as you guys are sharing this with your clients and your partners?
Well, we started using it in new business in September or October. And since then have won 2 really big assignments. So that's been fantastic. It's also changed how we approach our clients' briefs, right? So a lot of times we are asked to do one thing, and then we come in and say, actually, you know what, you should be thinking about doing. I know you asked us for this, but we want to actually focus on this. And we think, and now we have a data-based, it's not just intuition. Right. But it's a data-based recommendation that we're able to make. And so I think that it's still early days. It's only been a few months. But in the fact that from a new business standpoint, it's been very valuable to us. We just won Microsoft piece of business toward the end of last year in leveraging the learnings from that study, and kind of being very provocative in that, I know you asked us for this, but we think you need this. And
there's a level of swagger that kind of comes with that. I think a lot of agencies say that in the industry, right? There's this position of, oh no, we know what we are talking about. But as we see, and we see it in the trades every day, many cower because it's like, well, we just got to give the clients what they want. Right. But you have the intuition. So the intuition is still there. You have your framework, you have your data. Where do you hope this takes you in the next year? You've had some wins. You've been able to kind of move with more confidence with what you're saying. What does this look like a year from now?
Well, a year from now, I want us to be the first Black-owned agency network. That we have created. We have reframed multiculturalism. And have created a expanded Burrell beyond Burrell Communications Group into a network of companies that represent true multiculturalism in the agencies, in the targets that our agencies go after, in the composition of the people that call Burrell home. I don't want to be the only person that is saying or shouting, right? And whenever I say it to people, they're like, yes, that's absolutely true. But I don't want to be the only person who's shouting. Multicultural agencies should not be in the back of the bus.
Absolutely.
Like multicultural agencies, every agency should be striving to be a multicultural agency in the insights that they're delivering, in the composition of the folks that work at those companies. And so for me, a year from now, that's, I want to have other folks actively by my side in that mission. I think that is, for me, the legacy, Burrell 2.0, that is our legacy, in the same way that Tom reframed, you can't talk to Black people, Black people are not dark-skinned white people. I think that we have the ability, the credibility to really stand up for for something moving forward. Yeah.
100%. And also continuing to lead the conversation on culture.
Exactly.
And really showing what we already see, where it's, we can say all day, well, we're talking to general market or we're talking to a Black market. To me, what I've seen in the industry is that we use certain words not to describe what we're saying, but to describe the people we're talking about. So we'll say DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that will trigger the thoughts of, oh, Black people.
Right.
And it's like, no, but you're saying that because Black people talk about it.
Right.
We will say multicultural, and we know that is the entirety of a consumer population. Right. But we'll think about like, oh, that's Black or Latino or Asian.
Or
it's
Asian.
like,
Yes,
it's not
exactly.
who's saying, it's actually, we want to reframe it to be what it actually means. And I love that you guys have built this out and you're doing the research and tying that data to it. Yeah. Because for so long, since 2020, isn't that what everybody said they were looking for? Well, we have to do the research. We have to do the data. And now it's done. And so we have an opportunity to move forward.
Absolutely.
I love that. I think probably I might be on my last question. Okay. I gotta look. I gotta make sure. When you say you want other folks standing next to you and activating and really amplifying this through the thought leadership, call to action. Where are the places you want to see this? Obviously in the trades, talking to me, but where else do you need folks to be saying this? Yeah.
I need clients to stand up and say, I mean, this is a scary time that we are living in. Yep. When you are afraid to have your beliefs align with your outward facing statements.
Right? That's what's happening.
You feel that could be persecuted, and your bag taken from you, right? When you are not standing up for what you believe in. I want the clients, and I've seen this, again, we have some fantastic clients. Yep. We have clients that are saying, this isn't a handout, we're focused on growth. Yep. And where are we going to grow, but with this audience, so we need people who help us to understand this audience. And so I just want people to be less fearful, and I recognize that is hard. But I think that there's an opportunity for us to have a counter narrative to what's happening here. And again, I know it's scary, but I do think that we ultimately, I don't want to look at us 4 years from now and we are like, now we've got to rebuild everything that we've lost over these 4 years. For sure. So if there is a not so silent resistance, that's what I want. I want people to resist.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for your hospitality. Thank you for doing the work in a way that is true to the business and continuing that legacy of Black leadership in the advertising business.
Absolutely.
I look forward to seeing more and hearing more. Yes. And good luck to you. Congratulations. And thank you guys, as always, for listening to Mixed Company. We'll be back.
Thank you, guys.